Welcome to the Tiger Interview Series.
In this episode, we have Tim Jones, our Pittsburgh director, interviewing Jason Grilli, a former big leaguer who had 15 years of service, had 79 saves, and was a one-time All-Star. Before the conversation, there was an interesting exchange around culture, people, and business. Jason says, it's about people. This game is about people. So is business. You need to collaborate. Teamwork makes it all work. This was a genuine conversation about being a fiery competitor. Also, Jason gives an inside look on the emotions, mental aptitude, and passion to tackle an audacious goal as a 17-year-old kid. Enjoy the conversation.
What's happening, everybody? Tim Jones, director here in Pittsburgh. I know you guys all know me. You're sick of my ugly mug right now, but I always work hard to bring you guys great content. We're excited today. We have a couple fantastic topics we're going to be including with the presentation today here, where we're going to be touching on drive, internal drive, external drive, transitioning from playing at the highest level to being a dad and being a coach himself. We're also going to talk about developing and how it's about people. You know, we touched on it briefly here before we got started, but it's a big deal and a new beginning overall. So I'm very excited today. I got a fantastic guy whose passion has never left the game. He made the transition now, and he's in the transition now, playing at the highest level to being a dad, seeing what baseball's like right here in the Pittsburgh area, which is very similar to the rest of the world right now. Jason Grilli, I'm very happy to have you on. I'm excited to have you on. I know we've talked quite a bit about the game over the last couple months here. Go ahead, give me a quick introduction. I don't think you really need one, but give me a quick intro and tell me something that you're working on now that you're excited about. I know you got a few things brewing here.
No, I appreciate you having me on, and with the name Rawlings back behind your organization, kudos to you for just wanting to teach. And no matter what hat you're wearing or colors you're wearing, I know that like me, you're very passionate just from talking. So thanks for having me on. Thanks for letting me have another pedestal to just spread the knowledge. I think playing 20 plus years professional, I even include my collegiate days because they paid me a scholarship to play. So I did get paid to play even then. So I consider that a little bit of a professional treatment if you get to get some scholarship money when you go to college. But I'm very lucky to have borrowed the game as long as I have. The love and respect that was taught to me by Steve Grilli, my dad, who played in the big leagues for some time and 11 years professionally, passed the baton to me. And I'm just trying to pass the baton, whether it's to my son or to any organization that I'm affiliated with or just trying to help coach. We'll get into that, as well as even the players that I'm playing against. I want to see good baseball. I don't want to see, everybody says, and this is redundant, as we said, the conversation is always the same. Everybody's frustrated because no one's collaborating. Now, if what I'm trying to do in my retirement, fourth year retirement, and John Buck, who's a good friend of mine, who's very involved with his three boys, and I am with my two sons, he goes, he retired before me. He goes, wait till you see the amateur, I can't even say, crap show that's going on, because everybody wants to fight their egos. Everybody knows more about baseball than the next guy, whether they've played, haven't played, frustrated professionally, collegiately, just a dad who wants to coach and coach during the game, which is something I'd like to touch upon later. It's just, we got to collaborate a little bit more. I think everybody's taking it. If we're going to look at a big league standard and bring it down to an 8-year-old level and all that in between, then we got to find the standard. If you want to go above that standard or sit below it, that's your prerogative. It's always about the player. It's not about the coach. It's not about the academy. It's getting these kids to what I'm trying to do, and my motto and my mission statement ever since I've retired is I want to keep the uniform on these kids as long as possible. Again, from my son to the kid that my son's facing, I want to see everybody succeed, because if that's happening, then we got better baseball to watch. If you can't play it and I can't play it, I already played it. I did the best I could with what my ability was given to me, all the injuries in adversity. Now I'm passing the baton to these kids. It's really frustrating. It's been frustrating for me to try to help, because some people are threatened by what I might have to share in knowledge. And this isn't even about me. I think it's just across the board. Even if I didn't play professionally, I'm seeing dads argue, this guy stinks and this guy, the organization does it this way. Great. The New York Yankees have a way that they play, a standard that they hold to, from long hair to beards to the players that they want, right down to the Pittsburgh Pirates, who they get young guys, turn it over, and they give them to the Yankees and teams like that. That's our frustration here in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
But anyhow, it's about these kids. I was a kid. I got to be a kid for a long time. I'm trying to still hang on to that feeling and dream. Starting to hurt, throwing some BP because I don't do it as often as I should anymore. Don't need to, but yeah, just want to help, and I'm glad that we can maybe touch upon some topics here.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest aspects that I want to pose as we dive into this, and it's going to be a really unique deep dive, is one of the biggest things that I've noticed just getting to know you personally is you're incredibly selfless. That doesn't happen with a lot of people, especially with professional athletes. A lot of times we talk about ego. There are guys that are just dads that have a bigger ego than anybody that has ever played in any professional level whatsoever. And you're just mind boggled by it. Like, what the hell is happening right now? Why? So let's dive into this a little bit, and kind of starting it off. We focus a lot on our players and their drive, their determination, the intent with things. So sticking with that, at what point did you realize that you wanted to play at a high level? When did your mind switch, and how did your day-to-day actions change?
I think I always had that. If we want to use drive, I'm going to substitute that word for passion.
Sure.
Down to collecting baseball cards, knowing all the stats. I used to videotape Roger Clemens and Nolan Ryan on my VHS machine. My passion was I was chasing, those were my rabbits. I wanted to chase those guys. I wanted to do that. I'll tell you a little sidebar story. What was my drive? My drive wasn't going to the parties and stuff like that, even though I wanted to. No different than anybody else wants to do all the fun stuff, the spring breaks, the cool. I want to be popular. My drive was my dad. Funny story, sidebar. My dad dropped me off at a high school party where they were drinking and some, typical stuff that goes on at high school parties and college parties. I didn't want to be there. I was caught on a Friday night videotaping, sitting in front of TV. He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I am trying to study what these guys do and record it and watch it." He goes, he knew about the party before I did. He dropped me off at the party. I went around. I had a couple pops. I came home. My dad owned a sports bar, but drinking beer wasn't a big deal to me. I've seen it all, what it all is. And I said, these people are watching what I want to do and what I want to be on TV. So my drive was passion. Sure, I went to the party. Unbeknownst to my dad, I walked all the way home, and he caught me. He didn't know I came home, and he saw me back in front of the TV. He goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "Dad, I'm going to tell you, this is what I want to do. This is who I want to be like, and this is what I got to dedicate to." So my drive was, you can't always teach that. That's self. You either have it or you don't.
Right.
How do you fire that up? I don't know. Some kids are more, again, passionate about this game, passionate about the craft. Some people are passionate about video gaming, and there's a sports and competitive business in that for e-game sports.
Sure.
So it's whatever you're driven at, whatever you're passionate about, love doing. I mean, people talk about it. People do blogs and video podcasts and everything like that. It's what you're passionate about. We are passionate about baseball. And baseball, if you don't love it, it will chew you up. It'll spit you out. So when I talk about drive, you can see it in somebody's eyes. You can see it in their actions, the way they carry their swagger. And, that goes along with the love and respect of the game. Now, it's easy to love it when you're doing well, but also to see the drive is when you're not doing well. What are you doing to get yourself better? And I think a lot of people are falling that the topic that we could, like I said, perpetuate on is parents complaining about, oh, this guy, it's just jealousy. Listen, this game is going to have a lot of ups and downs, a lot of volatility. My career was volatile. If you look behind me, there's just some of my jerseys. I would have taken, my dad was laughing. He goes, "Son, you had so much drive, right?" He goes, to have all this luggage. I go, "Dad, I lived on the road for 20 years, and I would have taken my bag baseball took me halfway around the world, right? But went from Hawaii to Italy and some places all in between, big cities, small cities. If you love the game, you have drive, you'll do whatever it takes. You'll do whatever it takes. Now, whether you're doing it the right way, wrong way, get ahead, cheat, step on somebody's head, do right, do wrong. But again, love, respect the game, the integrity of the game, but do it right at every level. Take a piece of what the guy who's beating you down, or watch it. Guys, watch your opposition. If he's dominating you, what is he doing? There's guys I played catch with that were younger than me, prospects I had to keep up with. I even heard Andrew McCutcheon the other night. He was mic'd up on a Phillies game 2 nights ago, whatever it was. And they were playing the Braves, and he was talking to Freddie Freeman. He's like, I'm trying to keep up with Alcuna Jr. So here's McCutcheon, who was an MVP years ago. He's down, the downslope of getting older, and he's like, I'm trying to keep up with the young stud, because if I'm trying to keep, so that just shows you, like, you never stop learning. You never outgrow this game. So your drive has to be constant, and your passion has to always be there.
I think it's the biggest aspect, and I know I've seen this. I've talked to a lot of my players about this, whether they play for my organization or it's just someone doing a camp, clinic, or a lesson. It's very difficult to find kids that actually sit down and watch a game. An MLB game, a college game, and it's a sad reality. I mean, I remember as a kid, I'm getting ready for the All-Stars when I'm 12, and I'm watching SportsCenter, all the top 10 plays. I'm trying to mimic that. We're out on the field having fun. We watched we knew baseball players. You ask kids today, like, who's on this roster? They'll name you the top 3 to 5 guys in the MLB right now, and that's it. They don't know anybody else. And it's amazing how that happens now. It's just completely changed. But if you watch what you want to do and you have that internal drive and passion, that's why the numbers are so small going to college, making the pros, because they set them up for success, because they have that drive and determination to push aside the distractions, because they are studying the game to the point where they want to make themselves. It's amazing that you did that. You don't hear that very often. That's pretty unique. I love it.
I think it's to touch upon why that's happening. I think the brand of baseball is way different than, this is a new generation where, everybody's talking about why guys are hitting 100 or $150 in the big leagues, making multi-millions of dollars. The statistics have changed on what's important. The brand of baseball, 40% of the game now is walks, strikeouts, and home runs. We are not teaching kids to bunt. We're not teaching bunt plays. We're not teaching, my biggest anxiety when I was coming up was we got a flyer on, first base that could steal. We got a guy like Juan Pierre, who's also a flyer, who's great at bunting. You got to make sure the bunt coverage, and you got to pitch to the third hitter or fourth hitter in a situation where you're going, like, there's situational things going on. Now they've taken away all this stuff to be very predictable. I think the game is very predictable and boring because now it's bash ball instead of baseball. If we reteach the kids the fundamentals of what was, and the shows like This Week in Baseball, there's a lot more action. Surprisingly to me, there's a lot more action when that was going on. And the games were 5-3, 3-2, 2-1 ball games, and people go, "That's boring." They go, "But you're not paying attention." So yeah, you want to see? Go watch BP then if you want to see action, because that's basically what you're seeing during the game, and that's a true pitch you're talking, of course,
Sure.
But I think some of the predictability of the game, we've lost a lot of components of what are we teaching. It's easy to put a ball on a tee and say good job, instead of like, well, why are you doing? What's your approach? Nobody's talking more of an approach. These kids go in there, and coaches are yelling during the game. Well, what's their approach? I don't see any pregame talk or enough. There's not enough time to get ready for tournaments. Or even my son's game the other day, I followed the bus. They had a half an hour to get ready off out of school, stretch, throw, and then there's no BP. It's very minimal, right? And then we're going to have this expectation to be great in game. But the pregame sucked. I mean, you go to a math class, you're changing, hurry up, eat a snack, and then we're out on the field expecting kids to be great or be good today.
Sure.
Or even in a tournament. So it's a lot of diluted things that we have to adjust. Of course, we're not going to fix that per se, but I think it's good, to talk and collaborate and say, how do we make this better? Instead of sitting there and bitching and complaining about things, there's not enough guys collaborating to say, hey, what does your organization do? That's great. we should implement that. Hey, what do you guys do? That's great. We should implement that. Or we could tweak this because we don't like that, but we know that we can make this. It's sharing knowledge. And again, it goes back to you never outgrow this game. And if you don't pick up tips and watch players individually, take up some of their methods and talk the game, that's what these shows and these talks are about, right? Learn the game. Who wants to listen? Who wants to sit down and talk the mental stuff? Because that is really where it's at.
It's a big topic. I know myself living here almost my entire life. There's this massive hatred almost between travel baseball and high school baseball, or even middle school baseball, where a lot of high schools now, there's some of them are trying to do an entire fall ball season where they have you for six days a week. There's really no development at all. You're just playing games. And I know high schools that have dads coaching the game, and I'm like, this isn't baseball. That's a time to teach and develop. And the same goes with your winter practices where they want you to come in and all you do is swing. Well, if you have no intent, are you really going to get better? No. So I'm trying my hardest to try and connect with high school guys on my level, because I know some of them don't have time based on a lot of what you mentioned, where kids are literally in class and then bam, 30 minutes later, they're on the field and they expect to play. They don't have as much time as they need to develop players, or they'll just go through their 3-hour-long practice where kids are standing in the field and you're taking live BP and you're not learning anything. They don't have a routine and there's no timeline of things. And my goal is, listen, we're very good at developing players. We're very good at the mental side. What's your approach? Don't tell me that you want to get up there and just hit the ball hard. You should probably get up there and have a plan of action and know what that guy's throwing. So if the guy that's leading off faces 12 pitches, he's got a quality at bat, you should know everything that guy's throwing and predominantly where his spots are, so you have a better idea. So when you're in the hole, you're having a live BP. If you're on deck, you're having a live BP. If you're the fourth one in, you're good to go. So there's a lot of aspects that go into that, and no one really does that. And some guys are like, no, I'm not even talking to you. And I said, but here's what I'm willing to do for you. So your guys come in prepared, but then you need to take the torch at that point, and you have to teach them on top of that.
You're right. Correct. And good points. I think, we look back and we talk about programs and things. How about just, Dad, can we have a catch? Because I think you develop a lot, not only just from a bond standpoint, but, the fundamentals. These kids all want exposure. And now I'll tell you a little bit about what we do at Top 100, because these kids are not exposing themselves to themselves. Sometimes you sit there and you go, I always tell kids, I go, I'm not trying to teach you. Let's just take a round off the tee or play and catch. Just do what you do and feel what it feels right. And tell me, because I want to learn you that particular day, that time. If I'm going to get you in a confident spot, just like shooting free throws, right? You get in the zone, you get that touch. Wow, how many can you drain in a row? You watch these basketball players, Stephon Curry, even watching how much the repetitions. These are all repetitions. If you take that into baseball, it's a different sport. You take that kind of preparation into baseball. There's guys there at 1 o'clock for a 7 o'clock game. And Harold Baines, when I was at Chicago White Sox, I picked this up, and I'm a pitcher. He goes, I go in the cage, and yeah, it's fun to hit bombs, BP with the crowds there. You put on a show but that's a 5 o'clock hitter, right? They call it. It's a 5 o'clock show. The game's at 7. He always said, he goes, why am I wasting my time and my reps? If I find my confident swing and the swing I'm looking for in the cage to do what I need to do situationally, to do what I need to do if I see my sweet spot, I chase that, and then I'm done. And I took that into my pitching, because I narrowed down my preparation pregame and in-game stuff to my bullpen. I got it down to 11 pitches before I went out there to throw my 5. How many notes, it's like the game show, name that tune. How many notes do you need to name that song? I was like, how many pitches did I need? How many throws? Without burning myself out so I could be accountable. That's knowing and breaking down your routine. And I think the routine is the key word, that nobody's teaching a routine. Everybody's routine is different. Every key point for kids to learn, to learn the technical, to the feel, to the confidence. There's a connection where you sit there and go, how do I get that so that this kid's locked in? And then once he's locked in, your coach in hand, go, can I get everybody on the same page to play for each other so that they're all locked in so we can win as a team, you know? And that's hard. It's hard at this level because you got everybody yelling things and coaching things. I'm guilty of it too. I want the opportunity for my kid the same you want for your kid or anybody else's kid. We all want that opportunity for these kids to succeed and set them up for successful situations.
What could you do on the coaching side where it's an investment in yourself and that player with active learning? You know, what possesses someone to reach the pinnacle of a sport? You know, are there narratives out there that don't support the reality of reaching professional baseball, not just intrinsically within yourself, but having a coach help you get there?
Again, I think there's that inner drive. You could have the best coach in the world. I've played with guys who the big leagues made $1 trillion and they hate the game. So It's frustrating because you're sitting there going like, I even had Melanson always go, you know, do you really like playing like that? Yeah. I'm sorry you don't feel the same way. I feel like that's not an act. I have somebody goes, is that an act? No, I love it. And you're making more money than me and I'm having more fun than you. So it's not the money. It's like I literally, you know, and it's funny, I'll bring up a topic I never talked to him about it is Stanton. He hit that bomb off me. He hit that, he got me. I think I punched him out, you know, many times in his last at bat. He had the last lab. He hit one. He was mocking that, you know, how I fist pump. I go, I never disrespected him to his face, but I laughed inside the media. My answer to the media was like, do you want to talk? I'm like, I have nothing to say. I said, it was a meaningless home run. I'm glad he hit the pitch. He hit it a far ways, you know, and I left it at that. I said, I don't have a comment. I'm not going to jar. I said, but and my thought was, I'm sorry he's not that passionate about it like I am. I'm passionate about what I do, and guys do all their home run trot, and now they're celebrating. I go, but I was doing that because I was excited to win. I peed, pooped, and puked before I pitched because I was excited to win. So what possessed me, I guess I could talk that way, what possessed me to reach the pinnacle of my sport was that I wasn't going to be happy until someone ripped the uniform off me. There were things I felt I was capable of doing. And I listened, you know, if I listened to all these people that said I couldn't, I wouldn't, or there's no way, or, you know, I was injured over here and I got traded to this team. Like I said, this is just some of my jersey collection. I haven't built my locker here yet, but, you know, my path was I knew where I wanted to go, and I wasn't going to be satisfied and getting off the gas until I got there. You know, so the possession for me was what possessed me was I was willing to sacrifice my body because love is sacrifice. You can take that from a spiritual standpoint, right? Whatever you believe in, to the sacrifice I made. I made a lot of decisions based on I'm now seeing what I did and the intensity of who I was. My superhero costume was whatever team I was playing for, right? That day.
Sure.
But I still have it on. Whether I'm dressing it with Top 100 Sports or just going out in the world, I'm still me, and my drive is the same. I'm doing some projects on my farm out here. I have the same drive. I'm just applying that drive as an athlete and my mindset to everything I do. Whether I'm reading a book, how fast can I read this book? How well can I pass the baton to this kid? If I see that drive in this kid, I get excited to work with him. I'm like, dude, do you feel that? You know?
Yeah.
And that's the reward, you know, it's the reward. And
essentially summing it up, it's just being relentless to yourself and your goals and be willing to make sacrifices. I mean, that's really what it is. And it's awesome that you kind of touched on what you do now, how you apply it now. You know, that's a big aspect too, because I know how pumped up and excited I get when I get a routine ground ball hitter that has more deficits in their swing than I can count. And then once they understand it with the active learning, and I love kids that don't talk to me because I'm like, I don't care if you hate me. You're going to talk to me at some point. You're going to get it. And then you're going to smile because you're going to get excited when you rip one off the back wall and it's this loud boom. And I ask you, what did it feel like? I felt amazing. It felt simple. I used my body. And now they're understanding terms we're teaching them. They're understanding why they're doing it. And they're starting to get a feel for their body. And once they get that, now we just work to replicate it, get the timing aspect in. And then you see the progress. And then whenever I go watch them play, I just love having them look at me and say, Coach, I loved it. Or if I do, I call them destruction days where I destroy them with every pitch in my arsenal. And I was a catcher, so I'm not pitching wise, forget it. But I could grip a ball and I could throw different things. And I'll just destroy them from a closer range. but it's always great because the next week they go out there and they dominate. Why? Because I force them to focus on me, my mechanics. They're watching the pitcher. They're watching the arm slot. And they'll come back to me. They hate me that day. They'll come back to me the next week and they'll say, Coach, that was the hardest lesson I've ever had, but it was by far the best lesson I've ever had because you pushed me to focus and stop thinking and just react to what was coming. That's all it takes, man.
You know what? Guys that were Hall of Fame pitchers, the Atlanta Braves staff of yesteryear that won all those pennants, right? And some of these kids won't even know who Mike Maddox or Greg Maddox and John Smoltz, that whole squad is, right? They would understand that guy had 3,000 strikeouts throwing 86 to 88 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Those guys were avid golfers too. And you know what? Because they weren't working on baseball, getting in the zone, it was about getting in the zone, staying in that zone, chasing that high. And if you are an athlete and you really understand I have some talent, but that it could be your math class. I used to love math because it was a puzzle. I used to get in the zone. I told my son that today. I was like, son, get in the zone now. You're not playing a game tonight, but get in the zone now because you have to constantly chase your mind and trick your mind to say, I'm locked in. Turning it on and turning that switch on and off as an athlete, you have to do it constantly. It's constant. It's never when you can have that down moment, have the down moment. Enjoy that active warm up or active day where you're working out. But keeping your mind right, dude, and that competitive edge, that's huge. That's why those guys golfed all the time, or
Sure.
What it is. Find something that keeps you hungry.
Sure. I'm gonna jump into this. I know Spiker texted me. He's gonna cap it, and then we'll do a second round as well. So I want to transition a little bit. I'm gonna keep this developing people, new beginning, and a couple extra aspects for a second round, if that's cool with you.
Sure.
Transitioning from a pro to a full-time dad. We've talked a lot about drive in your own career. What about your new missions and helping kids? Your mission is staying in the game and putting that cape on, that superhero to really help the kids. I know that you've worked with different organizations. You do a lot, and you're always willing to offer help. You're always willing to coach a kid. And playing as a youth player, playing at the high school level, collegiate, pro level, you and I both see a lot of flaws that are out there with egos and just money comes first. What are some of the transitions that you've seen between when you played and now with your kids playing now? What are some of the biggest differences you've seen, and what's your mission to change that? And what are some of the things that you hate or love about them?
Well, for every game, I think there should be 2 or 3 practices. I don't think there's enough team practices. And when we scrimmage, it's really another game. These coaches aren't stopping to go, hey, timeout, and just want to recreate that. So the kid has an understanding. That's a time not to embarrass and worry about a scrimmage result. Sure. It's a time to teach and learn and break the game down because, that's essentially it. Or we're not exposing them to themselves. What's their training regimen? What are they eating? I mean, like I said, if I'm trying to, as a dad for my own son, I've shared a couple nuggets that I was holding on to. Do I share this? Do I not share this? Do I want to keep a competitive edge more for my son, or am I going to be unselfish? I've been unselfish in sharing who I use and who I'm sending my kid to and why I'm doing this. Because at age 23, when everybody was sticking needles in their rear end, when I was in the mid-90s and got steroids was prominent in the game.
Sure.
Right? I'm 23, $180. I was a 4th pick in the country. Call my dad crying in AAA going like, Dad, is this what I got to do to make it to the big leagues? The big decision to make, right? Do I join the 85% doing this, or do I stay in the what got me here? I chose the hard work. I was like, well, I know that. I don't know what this stuff could do. I think that helped with my longevity, but these are tough decisions you got to make as even an athlete, and as a dad, what I'm seeing now is just, it is frustrating because, again, I used to sit out there and want to play catch with my dad. As soon as he got home from work, I was waiting. I was always throwing anything. It was rocks, dirt bombs, crab apples. Even I would throw out the garbage, anything I could throw. Right? It was just like I was always doing stuff. I had a teammate in basketball. I'm going through my delivery. He's like, dude, it's basketball season. I go, I know, but I'm always thinking about baseball. That's my love. So I don't see enough. There's a lot of things that are competing with sports today, whether it's video games, whether it's, we're dealing with the COVID situation. There's adversity. But again, I think what I don't see enough is these kids taking individual time. You don't need anybody to go hit off a tee. You don't need, I didn't have a throwing partner. I wound up going like, I don't need a throwing partner. I had bags of balls and I went to a tennis court and I threw as long and far as I needed, as much as I needed at the court, and I would pick up the balls. And that was my throwing routine until I had to go throw and need a catcher. I'd go find one. But, you always got to find a way to keep your edge, keep your advantage, find out what works for you, and then get tips. But again, trying to put egos aside and dads that say, well, this isn't the way. It's healthy selfish as opposed to being selfish. I think there's a lot of selfishness to say, screw that, I'm going to go over here. There's not enough organizations that make it about people. You can build the Taj Mahal, the greatest Planet Fitness and whatever centers you got. But if you don't have the right personnel and people, the teams I want and the teams that you see spraying champagne on TV, what's the question I always say? Why did you win? What was we had a great group of guys. They enjoyed being around each other, Hey, listen, man, if you're wearing a Rawlings Tigers, jersey and I got top 100 team on or whatever it is, if we have opposing things going on to win, well, then, I'm going to try to beat your butt that day,
Sure.
But as far as collaborating and say, hey, man, nice job, or hey, coach, this kid's good, tell him this. I've told kids that, hey, you're tipping your signs. You're tipping your pitches. Ricky Henderson told me that a long time ago. He didn't have to tell me that. That's just like saying, hey, respect the game, and you could do it in a right way, or you could do it where it's detrimental to, well, what are we really getting out of if you 10-run rule me or 15-run rule me? You're taking at bats and repetitions, really, right? If we're chasing the high school jersey, we're chasing that collegiate jersey, we're chasing that professional jersey by winning at all costs, a kind of mentality, we're defeating the development side of things. And everybody uses that sexy word development. Well, okay, what is it really doing? What's the big league way? That seems to be working. Why is there a development system from rookie ball to the in between the big leagues? There's a right way to do it, and this is the standard for whatever organization you're a part of, whether it's Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, New York Yankees, whomever, the Dodgers. They have a way, and they follow the way, and they get the players that go, this fits into our way. This is the player we're looking for, and this is the way we needed them to develop. We need them to work on this. We need them to do that. I'd rather know. If you want me to sweep the floor, tell me I need to sweep the floor. Tell me I'm doing it right, doing it wrong, or to the way that you like. Help me succeed. Set me up for so from a pro to a full-time dad, it's frustrating because I am a dad. I wear my dad hat more than ever. I'm more taking pictures. I'm running around the field. I'm saying things to the opposition, or hey, nice job, or hey, man, just give them a little tidbit. It's not enough collaboration. If you love and respect the game, yeah, I understand you want to win, but I also want to see people go, I'd rather have better competition, because if you breed better competition, you're going to breed better baseball. You're going to breed better baseball players as a whole. And there's a lot of talent here in Western PA. There's a lot.
There is.
There's a lot.
There is.
And there's a lot of choices of where they can go play. It just, are they buying into, again, the personnel that you have in your organization? Okay, we can go based on price. We can go based on all that stuff. But, to me, brother, there's not enough collaborating. There's not enough guys. The post game is fun for coaches and dads, even as players. We used to love having a couple beers, cold beers after the game. And that was kind of getting lost with the cell phones, right? Everybody was on their cell phones in the locker room.
Yep.
And that culture changed. It's sitting around and being vulnerable enough. I think that's what's changed the most. And I see that amongst baseball coaches and dads. They don't want to admit that they're wrong, or they don't want to admit that they don't really know something, or they don't want to admit that, hey, how do you get better at this? This
Sure.
could be. How do you throw your slider I asked that to guys in the big leagues. Garrett Cole used to ask me, I said, dude, you got better shit than I do. You're going to get it. Trust me. But I love that he came to me and said, how do you strike out all these guys, girl? I said, you're learning. It's going to come. You know, but I love that he was vulnerable enough as a big leaguer who was way more talented than me and asked me the question because he wanted to get better. And that's how you do it. I don't care if you're a coach, a hitting coach, pitching coach, you know, a fan, a dad, like just be vulnerable, like calm down, be healthy, selfish. And there's times when you can be too selfish and check yourself, you know?
That's accurate. It's a big deal. And I've mentioned this to you before where I've been part of other organizations and sometimes it's a dictatorship, sometimes which is ego driven. And it's like, okay, what's the point of doing this? And sometimes I don't even get an answer. It doesn't make sense. And I couldn't buy into the system because you were basically forced to, or we didn't really develop the players because it was, hey, here's 40 kids, go hit for half an hour. I'm like, well, I'm not really able to do much. Like I have to take 40 kids and I'll get through 3 drills. That's it. And with scrimmages, I used to love scrimmaging teams, and I have all my guys do this because what did we struggle with last week? You know, write down 3 things, let the kids answer before you tell them. And then usually a weekend or 2 in, we'll start getting involved with them knowing exactly what we have to work on. So if we scrimmage a team, use it. Say, hey, I want you to bunt 3 times in a row. We really struggle with that. Or our outfield did not hit a cut. Put a guy in second, even put a guy in second and third. I don't care. Put bases loaded. I want to see if this guy can throw with a pressure situation because it's a scrimmage. So half their mindset is low key. The other half is still pressure coming up. How do we get through that? I want to give them the opportunity to fail forward and know what they can do to improve. And then we coach them about it. You know, I don't do any in-game coaching of, hey, you're doing this, doing this. I'll ask them like, hey, you rush yourself on that one. What did you see? And then they tell me, and then I say, okay, what could you do to make it a little bit better? Instead of yelling at a kid or doing things like that, it gets off the wall. And, you know, everybody competes. Everybody wants that trophy. And if they beat up everybody in this local area, then they're the top dog. And, you know,
well, you said it right, man. You said it right. You, whatever caused you to lose a game, if there was something that cost you the game, that should be a very big fundamental thing that you work on in the next practice. Hey, if we lost the last game because of this, maybe we got to do this a little bit better because the situation is going to come up again. And believe you me, that was what, you know, if you look at a big league schedule, 162 plus games, spring training, the best athletes, spring training for 6 weeks to just try to hurry up and hone their baseball skill set enough to take on tackle that 162. And if you're lucky to make the playoffs, to win another 11 games, you got a World Series championship ring on, you know, that's a process. And you have to constantly, and that's why I said, I guess if I've been redundant on going back to some of the questions and things we touched upon, taking what we do as standard at the big league level to do this at the amateur level, giving a chance to everybody to talk. Sometimes there's not enough time to do that. But when everybody gets offended to say, hey, I noticed this, or I noticed that, or even players say, hey, coach, you know, we should take the time to do this. It's giving everybody that equal platform to be like, hey, guys, you know, we're playing for each other. Everybody wants to win. But if you're vulnerable to say, I'm willing to do what it takes to win, and a lot of that is talking about it and then making the adjustments of, I sucked at this, or we sucked at this. We need to do this better. Let's exploit the hell out of that in the next practice.
Yep.
Do practice, right?
Right.
Because you can't do that, some of that stuff as a team because everybody's going to individual lessons. Again, I remember sitting there swatting mosquitoes in Syracuse, New York. And that's why I always laugh. I go, how did I get, if I was in the basement of my house in Syracuse, New York in the winter, and I made myself into a draft pick, high school draft pick, and then got a first round pick 3 years later. What did I do? What was my mindset? People want to know that formula.
Sure.
And then I didn't, like I said, and truthfully, I didn't know how to develop myself after that. Competing against the Giants didn't let us touch weights.
Give us a little bit of a tidbit about the top 100, because I know it's going to capture people's attention. It's going to capture our director's attention. And I'm going to spend a good amount of time with you chatting about that and what you're doing with that in the next segment as well.
Awesome. Yeah,
Go for it. Go for it. Tell me a little bit about the top 100, just enough to pique their interest, so that way
yeah.
you've got that platform.
So here's the thing in my career that I'm trying to expose my son and everybody to is exposing yourself to yourself. People go, well, what does that mean? Well, I've seen kids that can hit the ball a country mile or throw hard or whatever and have that baseball skill set. What college coaches and professional teams are looking for is can these athletes sustain, right? Can I get a sustaining athlete that does work hard and all that? So the regimen is, everyone wants to take this data and the metrics, right? People going, oh, there's so much metrics involved, old school versus new school, the real versus the feel. Excuse me, top 100, what we do is we get everybody's baseline metrics. And that's from the vertical jump to your grip strength, your shuttle runs, all this stuff. How you compile it to say, this is where I'm at. And I know PBRs and the perfect games, they go, well, this is where you rank. Where we are different is that, and I'm not bashing what they do. I don't even care what they do. What I know we do and what we do right is we rank ourselves amongst yourself for your goal times, and if you want to improve these numbers in your player profile, which you can expose and share with collegiate coaches built within our system later on as you develop.
Mm-hmm.
But we rank you according to if you're faster than me on my team or in my state or in my region or internationally, anybody that's part of top 100 that signs up for it, we're exposing you to say, you're the big fish in the little pond here in Pittsburgh. But what am I across the state border? Where am I in the Northeast, the Midwest, internationally? Baseball's worldwide now, brother, right? So we got to expose these kids not to just, well, I'm good over here at the Rawlings Tigers organization, or I'm good in Western Pennsylvania. I'm good because look at what everything is like the development. We're developing a long-term thing. If you want to play baseball and that fall off, this cutoff, I'm seeing at 13, seeing the big cutoff because we're playing real distance, regulation distance.
Yep.
There's a big fall off at this age. They've hit their home runs at Cooperstown or Ripken's experience and all that. And then they go, wait a minute, I can't do that anymore. Well, it's a lot less fun because this game's hard.
It is.
It speeds up and it gets slower and it gets faster. So I try to expose even my son, his friends, and everybody else to go, this is where you're at. If that's where you want to go, I didn't learn how to develop and all the things that now, even more so now, with a personal trainer, that was my steroid. I hired a good friend of mine for the 17 years I was with him, and he kept me in the game. I got injured, the rebound, reinvent myself. You always have to be moving, changing. My age, I played till I was 40. I looked nothing like my mechanics were nothing like when I was 20.
Right.
Built differently, and, so what I do, and I'm sorry, I'm long-winded on this topic, but top 100, we basically get your data in your organization. We expose you to yourself. We expose you to the organization as well as kids that are all throughout the country that we're doing this. We swept across Canada. So to show you where you really sit and without a bias like, oh, well, you project as a Bryce Harper. Well, that's nice and sweet if you want to feel good. But we're just exposing you to real numbers. And those real numbers to say, this is what the University of Pittsburgh's program, D1, looks like. These are what they're looking for a center fielder. And some coaches and organizations use our data to say, yeah, he should be our catcher with his pop time being this. Or this guy should be our second baseman or shortstop or pitcher, whatever. You can make a team developed based on real data.
Sure.
But my goal, like I said, the biggest thing that I love about our organization is we're trying to keep the uniform on these guys as long as possible, whether it's JUCO, the D1 guys, you don't need us, right? You're going to get exposed because you're the best of the best. Those college coaches find you, and so does the pro scouts. But the kids that are the D1s, fringing on D2, D3s, we want to keep you out there, man. We want to keep you going. Baseball, and you can develop and transfer to D1. The game's only over when they rip the uniform off of you, right?
Just for our listeners out there, we want to thank you a ton for this. And I'm excited for the second round of this because we're really diving into the development side, which is what the Top 100 does internally throughout the country. And it gives players and parents real perspective of, I need to get to work, and this is what I need to keep this jersey and uniform on as long as I can. And, I love it because that's our focus, developing players, not just on the field, off the field, getting them to play as long as possible and really exposing them to what they need to do and teaching them the game, which seems to be a lost art for whatever reason now. So I'm excited for the second round. Keep an eye out for it. It's going to be coming. Jason, if you want, share the website for Top 100 or anything under the sun so people can kind of get a sneak peek of it. And then you and I are going to do a deep dive into that and developing people the right way.
Yeah, go check out top100sports.com. We'll give you an understanding of what we do. Again, it's just trying to keep the uniform on you as long as possible. Give you the data. It's pennies on the dollar. It's so ridiculously inexpensive, and we just want to help kids get to the next level of their true potential, and expose them to themselves and other people that, again, you could be competing against the guy for your spot, even though you have the same uniform on. So to continue to get better, I was a never say die guy, and I just don't want kids to give up because baseball is a great sport and we need the best athletes to play it. So.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it. I know Jason and I are excited to get into this round 2 coming up. Enjoy this episode, but you definitely don't want to miss the next one. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.